Nobody saw this coming. 3 names gone in a single afternoon. 2 more wiped off the roster entirely. And by evening, manager Tom Callahan was standing in front of cameras looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in 5 hours. What exactly happened inside that front office meeting? Let's break it down. The headline first: outfielder Darius Vance, second baseman Kenji Okafor, and utility infielder Marcus Sato have all been traded, and not just anywhere, but directly to the Cascade Miners, the Voyagers' fiercest division rival. On the same day, the team confirmed that catcher Ray Delgado and infielder Jonah Marsh have been placed on the 60-day injured list with structural damage serious enough that both are expected to miss the remainder of the season, possibly longer. What did you think when this news broke? Honestly, my first reaction was disbelief. You don't usually see a team gut 3 roster spots to a division rival in one move. Normally you spread those trades around the league to avoid strengthening someone chasing you in the standings. So the fact that Callahan and the front office sent all 3 to Cascade tells you something important. They weren't thinking about optics. They were solving a specific, urgent problem, and Cascade happened to be the team willing to pay the price they needed. Let's talk about why. Vance was hitting .261 with pop, but he'd become a defensive liability in left field, 3 errors in the last 2 weeks alone. Okafor's bat had gone cold for 6 weeks straight. And Sato, for all his versatility, was miscast as an everyday starter. He's a bench piece being paid like a regular. Individually, none of these were untouchable assets. But trading all 3 together, in one package, is what got the return the front office wanted. What was that return? Word is the Voyagers received 2 MLB-ready relievers and a top 100 infield prospect. That's not a headline-grabbing haul on paper. But here's the thing. Sometimes a trade isn't about who you get back, it's about what you clear out. This wasn't an upgrade move. It was an emergency subtraction. And that brings us to the injuries. Delgado's shoulder had been quietly bothering him since spring, but the team downplayed it for months. Now the imaging is back, and it's a labrum tear that needs surgery. Marsh's case is even more frustrating. A stress fracture in his foot that he apparently played through for nearly 3 weeks before anyone caught it on a scan. What did you think of how the team handled this? I think this is where the real story is. Losing 2 players to season-ending injury isn't unusual on its own. But losing them both at the same position group, middle infield and behind the plate, both needing consistent knee bend and lateral movement, at the same time the team is already thin at second base, that's what forced Callahan's hand. This wasn't, let's improve the roster. This was, we have 4 healthy bodies for 6 roster spots, fix it now. That's exactly why the trades and the injuries can't be looked at separately. Trading Okafor might look strange in isolation. Why get rid of a second baseman when you're already down players at that position? But when you know the front office had already lined up a replacement before the corresponding moves were announced, it starts to make sense. They weren't losing depth. They were consolidating it. So what did the Voyagers do about it? This is where it gets interesting. In the same 24 hours, the team recalled top prospect Eli Brennan from AAA, signed veteran catcher Hector Rees off waivers, and, the move nobody expected, completed a separate trade for minors, for former All-Star third baseman Devin Whitlock, sending him the other direction, from a completely different division rival, the Redwood Aces. 3 players out to 1 rival, 1 proven veteran in from another. That's not indecision. That's precision. From a fan's perspective, this all reads as chaos. But from a roster construction perspective, it reads as a team making a very specific bet, that Whitlock's bat and Brennan's speed matter more right now than what they gave up. The worst thing a front office can do in a moment like this is panic and grab whoever's available. Callahan didn't do that. He clearly had already scouted these names before the injuries even hit, which tells you the front office saw this coming weeks ago and had contingency plans ready. That's the real skill here, not reacting, but having already reacted before the crisis became public. By the time Delgado's imaging results were confirmed, the trade calls to 2 different teams had reportedly already been made. That's not luck. That's preparation. What's the risk in all this? Sending 3 players to a division rival could easily backfire if any of them thrive in Cascade's system. Vance, in particular, has the physical tools to be a 20-homer bat somewhere with better coaching. If he breaks out wearing a rival's uniform, this move gets ugly fast in hindsight. That's the gamble every front office takes when talent evaluation says, sell now. You're betting your read on a player's trajectory is more accurate than the player's own upside. But here's what I keep coming back to. Rosters aren't built in a vacuum. Every team has a ceiling on how many roles it can carry, and when 2 of your everyday players go down at once, you don't get the luxury of a slow rebuild. You have to make an ugly trade to fix an ugly problem. Callahan didn't have a good option. He had a least bad option, and he took it fast, which in itself is a form of competence that doesn't always get credit in the moment. Looking at the bigger picture, this is really a story about depth versus flexibility. The Voyagers spent years building up positional depth, and this week, all of that depth got tested at once. The teams that survive stretches like this aren't the ones with the most talent, they're the ones who built enough optionality into the roster that one bad week doesn't sink the season. Whether Callahan's gamble pays off won't be clear for weeks, maybe months. But the speed and decisiveness of the response? That part, at least, you have to respect. What do you think? Does this roster shakeup set the Voyagers up to stabilize? Or does trading 3 players to a direct rival end up costing them more than the front office bargained for? That's the question that won't be answered until we see how both sides of this deal play out over the rest of the season.